And a very warm welcome back to all of our viewers at Islington Free News. The following programme, Ludicrous May Elections, will follow after a short test card transmission to commemorate smart decisions.
Sam also says the true Islington residents want you to remove yourself before they do.
When walls had ears, my son, and be like dad, keep mum became the catchphrase of the war. We stood alone. And when the blackout came, while Jerry played his game,
Oi, put that bloody line out!
we stood alone. When Willie gave his sign, we sang the Siegfried line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? And down our way, we said, let 'em come.
They don't like it up 'em, so don't panic, son.
When the chips are done, you can always run. Yes,
We've got the media here today. We've also got a load of nice guest speakers coming up. I don't know if everyone's going to agree to everything they say, but it's going to be a good shout. We're outside the lovely town hall, the Islington Town Hall, where this is our building as Islingtonians. Okay? Don't be afraid to be standing outside here, because this is where we live. So, no further ado, I'm going to bring it over to Sean.
Friends, ladies and gentlemen, and the beautiful people of Islington. Yeah. I knew the gods would shine down on us today. Please, please, please shine down on us. And I just want to say, I've got to say, a great big thank you to Gary. Gary is probably the most honourable person I've ever met in my life, so thank you, Gary. But it is an absolute travesty of justice that we have to be here today, almost a year after our initial demonstration against these persecutory and draconian road closures. Almost a year, can you believe that? But the simple fact is, the council still isn't listening. Besides that, I quite often have people come up to me and accuse me of the reasons why I don't like LTNs, low traffic neighbourhoods, is because I simply do not like change. Now think about that for a moment. I know every single one of you here today have gone through significant changes in your life. I know that. And yet now you have people who don't even know you. In fact, people who don't even have a relationship with London tell you what you should and shouldn't like. That is shameful. Now, quite often I respond to these people by saying that it's not change so much that I don't like. But what I cannot stand, and I can't emphasize this enough, but what I cannot stand is change that ushers in social injustice. That's what I cannot stand. I cannot stand change that disregards the needs of the most vulnerable in the community. I cannot stand change that dismisses the elderly, the frail, the wheelchair dependent, those with sensory issues, and those people who carry out their daily duties, such as Alison Prince, who's a carer, and the lady at the back whose son is living with autism. That is the kind of change that I cannot stand. I cannot stand inequity. I cannot stand discrimination against people who live, work, play, go to school and suffer pollution on residential main roads. That's what I cannot stand. I cannot stand local businesses who, when they show their concerns, are treated like they are merely collateral damage. That's what I cannot stand. But I tell you something, what overrides all of that, and let's get really, really serious here, because what overrides all of that is politicians and bureaucrats that think it's okay to perpetuate policies that divide our communities more than ever. That is what I cannot stand, because that is what they have done. They have picked up local people, they have turned them upside down and smashed them on their heads, and that to me is a socially unjust abomination. Yes! Woo! What we have now is a tale of two cities, between the haves and the have-nots. We most certainly have a tale of two Islingtons, but not only that, we have a tale of two Ealings, of two Chiswicks, of two Lewishams, of two Lambeths, of two Greenwiches, of two Tower Hamlets, of two Camdens, of two Enfields, and most certainly a tale of two Hackneys. Yes! We have a tale of two Londons that is divided by social injustice, and that is a disgrace! There is, however, a glimmer of hope. On May the 6th, there is a mayoral election and there is a number of local by-elections. And what we need to do, as a collective, what we need to do is consolidate and maximise our voting potential. That's what we need to do. Because only by optimising our vote do we get rid of the fascist utopia that resides in that town hall and in town halls across London. That is what we need to do. So on May the 6th, we need to come together as a collective, and this time next year at the actual local elections, we need to vote collectively, and maybe then we can throw this lot out amongst the rubbish that they are not collecting on a weekly basis. Yes. Thank you, Islington. It is fantastic to be here again today. Now, I could talk absolutely interminably, but absolutely with the fascist utopia kicked out this time next year, that is most certainly a change that I, and I know you lot, would love, not just like, but love. So I'm going to hand back to the Honourable Gary, but I do know that we've got one or two residents who are absolutely detrimentally impacted by these measures. They're going to say a few words. We've got a couple of candidates as well going to say a few words. We've even got a couple of opposing candidates. So all I would say is show some respect, show them absolutely some love, and listen to what they've got to say. Like I said, I'm going to hand you back to the Honourable Gary, and he will do the honours. Thank you, and God bless Islington.
Right, so we're going to hand over to the first candidate for the independence of the councillors. We're going to ask over Mr. Martin Perks.
I'm campaigning in Bunhill to stand as an independent candidate, May the 6th by-election. And basically I want to tell you why I decided to stick my neck out and stand. Interesting decision, but the by-election came up and I kind of felt I had no choice. I had to do it. It's sort of one of those moments you can either go for it or you regret it for the rest of your life. I'm standing very simply because I'm a Democrat. That is what I'm standing for. That's my principle in life. It outrages me that they think they can run roughshod over every one of us, making decisions for us, doing little to really engage us or consult us. I think that has been an outrage for not just this year, but for 10, 20 years. And I think that this is a battle more than road closures. Road closures are outrageous, but to me this is a battle between them in there and us, the public, you people looking at me and listening and campaigning with me over the last few weeks, years and months, being annoyed, outraged by the gap between the bureaucrats, the technocrats in that building we're trying to get into, and what each and every one of us live and experience ourselves, that there's a huge disconnect. And I think that one of the problems we face with is that plainly the politicians, the bureaucrats, the councillors have failed to engage us. All they do instead is online consultations and a quick opinion poll or survey. That's their excuse. That's their excuse to never really talk to you in public. They might do a Zoom, but that's not good enough, and we demand better representation and engagement. So for me, the road closures are the tip of the iceberg of the problem they failed to engage us with politically. COVID provided them with the excuse. Political opportunism is how I describe it. Tories and Labour, under the guise of COVID, were using the road closures to try and provide themselves with a sense of political legitimacy, or purpose even. They thought closing the roads will give them a sort of credibility amongst the population, the public. They could do something once they thought was positive. Of course, we have showed them that is a completely ridiculous idea, a policy that never worked, and of course has created more division, more chaos, more carnage than we've seen for a long time. All they're doing is displacing the problem, thinking it will go away. And we're here to show them it hasn't gone away, and we're going to fight them all the way to stop it. And I think, as I say, this is a problem for me, not just about road closures, it's about our autonomy, our right as citizens to make choices about how we go about our lives, how we live, even how we choose to drink, smoke, what transport we choose, what we choose to eat. Even today, there's a story in the BBC saying that they're now going to ban coal-based fireplaces, presumably also Arga cookers, and everything else we choose to use in our homes. Again, not only are they content with banning us from driving cars, they also want to ban how you heat yourselves under pretense of being environmentally friendly. What does that mean? It means we're all going to freeze to death in the winter, where we can only look at a nice TV screen of a fireplace rather than have the warmth of one in the pleasure of our own homes. They won't stop at anything when it comes to regulating how we live our lives. What they're doing there, of course, is not providing us with adequate resources, transportation, heating, and so on. Instead, what they do all the time is blame us. We are the problem to them. We are the problem to be controlled and regulated to death, rather than us thinking that they should provide us with adequate public services that allow us to get on with our lives as we choose. That's what we should be demanding. Get out of our lives and stop regulating and micromanaging us in terms of how we live. We demand more freedom, more autonomy. We're adults. We're able to think for ourselves. Thank you very much. And I tell you, I've met some interesting characters on my walking up and down 40 tower blocks and estates over the last 3 weeks in Bunhill. It's been a revelation. Community is not dead. Community is only hidden away. That's no surprise to me, because the Labour Party especially have smashed local communities for the last 20, 30 years. It's no wonder people are too shy and afraid to come out in public and say what they really think. But I tell you what, because we're standing as independent candidates, it's now a chance to reverse that and give people a real voice that's been taken away from them. That's what I'm about. I'm about political engagement, about finally listening to people and giving them a public voice that has been denied to them, and they've been castigated by people like Thornbury and others who still think we're the white working class racists. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is about us fighting back. But the final thing I'll say is that we have to fight back through independent politics, not through continuing to support mainstream parties, the Tories or Labour. I don't care what local candidates say about themselves under those banners. The Tories and Labour have done more than anything to destroy our autonomy and independence, and they'll go further every day to do the same thing. Now, if you decide to vote Labour or Tory, that's of course your choice, but you're prolonging their survival. You're prolonging the time when we start to take ownership of politics ourselves. And I'm going to say to you, in Bunhill and Jody Graber here in St Peters, now is the time to reverse that. Now is the time to cut the lifeline of the Tory party and the Labour Party, and now is the time for a real independent voice. That is what I'm standing for, democracy. Thank you very much.
What I really want to talk today about is about you, about Islington. Not this group or that group, but you, because I think we all owe you a great debt. So it's about 10 months since I came to my first Islington demo against road closures, and it made a real impression on me. And I've been to many demos over the years, but there was nothing quite like this. And I was impressed by your attitude, by your bolshiness. I was impressed when you said, these are our streets, and you stood out there and you marched, and you said, these are our streets, we won't be pushed around by jobsworths and petty politicians. And I was impressed when you demanded that the council open up the roads and we get the city back. So I'm so impressed that I came back the next week with a microphone and a voice recorder and a camera, and I interviewed some people, and I wrote an article for Spiked Online, which was one of the first articles against road closures, and I met some great people, and you set me on my way, really, because it's been all that ever since.
Keep it together.
Keep it together. So for the last 10 months I've been working with horrendous Hackney road closures as one of the organisers, with Danny and Shiva, who sets it up, and Josie. Also people we need to give a big round of applause for all the hard work they've been doing. Well done, Danny and Shiva. We've now got something like 7,500 members. And it's thanks to you. You know, we were very inspired by what you did. And over the past few months, what we've done, we and our fellow Hackney residents of all shapes, sizes, creeds, religions, all of that, we've organised marches, demos, we've forced the media and politicians to stand up and take notice of us. We've written press releases, articles, stunts, the first ever motorcade in Hackney. We've done surveys, articles, filmed interviews with residents and businesses. So we made a real impact. And we even managed to send off the Hackney transport boss, the obnoxious John Burke, who I'm sure you know, the architect of all these things. We managed to send him on his way. And I think what it shows is that, you know, politicians, you know, they're not used to coming under criticism, and we need to do more of that. Sorry, I'm very forgetful. So that's a small victory, and the road closures are still with us, and we've still, you know, but really important, we have pressure from voters. And all of that we did with your inspiration. If you hadn't started the ball rolling, then none of this would have happened. And there's more. And Hackney, we're taking Hackney to council to court over the road closures, which you probably know about. And our case is particularly important because other boroughs are challenging specific road closures, specific LTNs, because it's really difficult to do, but we're taking on the whole lot. So it's a really difficult and tricky court case. So again, thanks to Danny and Shiva, who put so much effort into this. But we need your support. If you want to find out more, donate, talk to Danny and Shiva, or look on our website. And through all of our efforts, Hackney and Islington and elsewhere, we've managed to put road closures at the centre of the debate of the mayoral elections, and people are starting to talk about it in Westminster now. Last summer, if you remember, nobody wanted to talk to us. They dismissed us as UKIPers, and if they spoke to us at all. Now, you know, everyone wants to be here and wants to talk to us, and we've got mayoral candidates here today, as you know. So. Nearly finished, that's not all. And of course we're challenging, as Martin says, we're challenging councils at the ballot box. You've got Martin and Jodie here, we've got Claire and myself in Hackney. I'm standing in Hoxton East, and I'm standing on a very specific, explicit anti-road closure platform. Because for me, it's what you can say, it's one issue, but it's every issue. Because it typifies the arrogance and the contempt that our politicians, national and local actually, have for us, and the way they've treated us over the last few months. I think it shows they're not only out of touch, but they're out of control, really. They're out of touch and they're out of control. Let's remember that. Because they say we can't be trusted to drive, or we can't be trusted to be consulted. They don't think we can make the right choices. They brand us as lazy and irresponsible. They treat us like children. But really, it's they who can't be trusted. They can't be trusted with our vote. They can't be trusted to look after our elderly and vulnerable and disabled residents. You can see what they've done to everyone. They can't be trusted to be left alone in the town hall to run our services and to run our boroughs. So it's we who shouldn't trust them, really, and now we know that we can't ignore them. I think that's what we've done over the past few years, is just let them get on with it, but we can't do that anymore. You know, so we're standing on May the 6th, but I think it's just the beginning. We need to see this as a bit of a dry run and prepare for full council elections next year and the mayoral elections. In Hackney, I want to get rid of the mayor. I mean, I think he absolutely needs to go. There's too much power in one person's hands. It's not democratic. We need to keep protesting, marching, and doing all of the things we're doing and more. But we need more residents to come forward and stand up. We can do it, and I think you've shown the way forward for us. You know, we need to shake up local politics, and we need to clear out the town hall. Can we do that? You bet we can. I mean, you just look at what we've done over the last 10 months or so. It's pretty amazing from a standing start. And during lockdown, when so many of our freedoms were curtailed anyway, and it was so difficult, we've not been able to protest. You know, so we've heard about red walls around the country over the last couple of years, but there's a red wall here, and there's a red wall in Hackney, and there's a red wall, Labour this is I'm talking about, in Tower Hamlets, and we need to start tearing it down and asserting ourselves. But we don't need the Tories to do it, we can do it ourselves. So to sum up, here's everything we've achieved so far over the last few months and to the future, and here's to you. Hopefully it's just the beginning. Let's open up the roads, let's free our streets, and let's tear down those red walls. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. And you know what is so incredible is there's so many different boroughs being represented here, and I've actually had the pleasure to go to Enfield, to go to Hackney, obviously Islington, and so many other boroughs, to talk to people, to listen to people, and everyone is having the same problems. And this is why we're here today united, because we all agree on one thing, that Sadiq Khan needs to go. But guess what? The solution is not by putting another politician there, because I tell you something, the Conservatives, all they're going to do is suspend, and that's the word that they've used, but they're not going to get rid of it. We need an independent mayor that actually represents us, the people, that stands for the people and listens to the people and not a political agenda. Because I tell you something, watching all of these LTNs, there is a political agenda. Now something Adis didn't say, but in Enfield, in less than 3 months, they made £1.8 million on fines. Now I've heard in other boroughs, they're making millions there as well. So this has to stop, and we need a mayor with leadership that is going to fight with us. Now the people, they fought back in Harrow, and guess what? They've been removed. So if we continue to stick together and fight the corruption of the mafia-led councils, and that's what they are, mafia-led councils, that they seem to forget that we put them there and they should be representing us, the people, but no, they're representing themselves, and it's about time there is accountability, and we send them a message that they are no longer in charge, there's accountability, and we will hold them accountable. So I urge you, on the 6th of May, vote independent, because that's the only way your voice is going to be heard. It's time to send a message to the Reds and Blues. We will not take it anymore. We are the people, and we are taking back control. Thank you.
First and foremost, thanks everyone for turning up, and especially to LRC for organising today's event. Fantastic of them to do this. Great to get so many people out here to support everyone. As I just mentioned, I am a Conservative. I am Deputy Chairman of Islington Conservatives. I'm also a cyclist. However, I'd like a few moments of your time before you boo me off or throw rotten cabbages to me. I'd like to just point out a couple of things. I'm also anti-LTN. And in fairness, before, a lot of these independent people were standing, and it's great that they're standing, and I'm all for democracy. We've been fighting against these road closures. We've been having our stand. A number of you probably signed up on our petition over a year ago with regards to standing to reverse these road closures. Now, I'm going to bring the elephant into the room. I'm going to talk about it, and that is, who's brought these road closures around? I'm sure a lot of debate has been there amongst all of you. The first thing is that this is a government-funded program. I'm not going to deny that. Nobody's going to deny that. The government's job is to look after the country. Now, they provide the canvas. They provide the paint. It's down to the local councils to paint that picture, to deliver what you need precisely, what you need as a local community. You elect local councillors to do that for you. You elect MPs to provide that platform for everyone. So did the government provide money? Absolutely they did, because they're looking to provide for a greener environment for all. They're looking to provide for a better environment, not just for you, but your next generation and the generations after that. Who doesn't want to sit there and make sure there is a greener, safer environment for their whole family and the generations to come? Please feel free to stand up and say. Now, it is down to the local councils to sit there and use their initiative. You elect these people to use their brains. You use them to provide direction for you, the people. They've taken that canvas, they've taken the paintwork, and it's a pretty ugly picture they've painted. They've taken a community, they've divided it. They've had us standing here. You've got a building that it belongs to us, and we can't stand in front of it. We've got the fact that we have people at loggerheads. We've got constant groups. I've been hounded on Twitter. God, I've been trolled. I didn't even know what being trolled was until recently. So the point, though, is that, yes, this is a government initiative to provide a greener environment for all, but it is the councils that are responsible. We've already seen a number of councils, primarily conservative ones, have been removing them. Now, I'm not going to look to just bleat on about being a conservative. I am, like the rest of you, a local. And I'm going to talk about some of the local issues that are there. I know I've done work for a number of the food banks. You guys, some of you may know about it, the Ark Food Bank, not very far from here. Now, when I was sitting there and doing deliveries for them, before the LTNs were brought in, I'd be hopping between vulnerable homes, people, young families with young kids who are too scared to go out, and I was taking food to them. I was driving around those homes. And between two of the stops, at least, it would take me 2 minutes. After the introduction of the LTNs, it was taking me 25 minutes to go between homes. Forget about the fact that I was sitting in traffic, creating further emissions, but the food I was giving to young families was going cold in the back of my car. Others of you may also know that I'm involved in soup kitchens that we've been running during COVID times. Some of you here have been volunteers at those soup kitchens. Now, I remember lamenting on one of the social platforms about the fact that it was an issue getting the equipment, getting food to the places that we needed to help the people that needed help. I think somebody chided up, one of the pro-LTN people said, well, why don't you just put it on the back of a bike? The last time I checked, it's pretty hard to get a 2-foot table on the back of your bike or a 5-litre canister of boiling water. But hey, you know what? It's okay. Let the people who are hungry and starving starve. Let them go without food. That's okay, because you got your roads, you got your LTNs, and the proud council that have brought these in are patting themselves on the back, whilst others are sitting there and suffering as a result. And I go back to the fact that the government has provided the funding for this, but it is the council.
Have funded your LTNs. That's Tory government and who you...
Thank you very much for the introduction. I actually have just said that. Thank you, Jody, for saying...
What's it is? Agenda 21,
That's right. Anyway, thank you, Jody. Thank you for listening for the last 5 minutes to what I've been saying. As I've been saying, it is something that has been paid for by the government, but thanks for chiming in. Anyhow, as I was saying, it's been provided by the government, but it's a council that has decided not to listen to you. It's decided to divide your community. And it's your choice to decide how that should change, be it the mayoral elections, be it the local elections. Now, I also mentioned I was a cyclist. And one of the things that I'd like to bring up is, well, common sense. Certainly these LTNs don't seem to strike that in any shape or form. But as a cyclist, I've been running around the roads. The potholes haven't disappeared. I'm actually more in danger now as a cyclist. I'm more in danger now as a cyclist because I'm being forced into traffic. There's also the fact that when I cycle around, I'm healthy enough to do so. However, I don't take my mother to hospital on the back of my bike. I take her in the car. Tradesmen, they use their tools. They take them in the van. Everyone needs to use these roads. There needs to be an organized way of doing so. Now, I know my time is probably limited because I know we've got a lot of speakers, so I'm going to try and wrap up as quickly as possible. We all want a better government. We all want a better environment for all. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, we've got a situation where we've got low traffic neighborhoods producing high traffic neighborhoods. We've got people from the disabled community. We liaise with the Disability Association of Islington, who have constantly been complaining about the issues that have been raised. And there are a number of other situations, such as the emergency services, and on and on. Myself, I'm standing in Bun Hill as a councillor candidate. And one of the things we're looking to do is stand against, one of the platforms is to stand against the road closures. Myself and my other candidates, Harry Nugent in Holloway, Ben Jackson in Highbury West, we've got Mohammed Kalam in St. Peters, we've got William Woodruff in Mildmay. We're all standing on an LTN platform. We've been supported by Emma Best, our East London candidate, petitioning against these road closures. I've been chatting to Sean Bailey, and he supports what we're trying to do here is to bring back open roads to the community.
Right, okay. We'd have to start wrapping up a little bit, mate.
Anyway, a vote for the Conservatives allows us to sit there and change things in the city. So, I appreciate your time, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
Hey, how about that? It doesn't matter whether it's Tory cash or Labour implementation, they are a social abomination and they should be disbanded. Anybody, any politician or bureaucrat from the top down through the Johnson government, through TfL to the local authorities, any politician that advocates dividing our communities should not be in the position they are in today.
Right, when all this started, I happen to live on a sacrificial road. I think some of you might know those terms. I don't live in an LTN. I live on the road that gets all the traffic, all the congestion, and all the pollution. 2 months after they closed London Fields and Hackney Downs, put the LTNs in, I was on an inhaler. Okay? I had to ring my doctor and say, I cannot breathe. Okay? In my own home. Let's be clear. My partner has asthma and they needed an inhaler. Waking up at night, coughing in our own home. I was sending videos. Of the completely working class primary school across from me and the nursery to our councillors, my ward councillor, the mayor, John Burke, the rest. And they told me this is not happening. There's been no increase in traffic. Lies. And it was weeks later, I was walking down the street and some young man, 30, and I thought, well, who's he, cyclist. I cycle, by the way, nothing against cyclists. And I said, oh, what's he gonna have a go about, or whatever, and he said, oh, are you the woman who was just in the Hackney Citizen talking about the pollution? He said, do you realize Hackney Council is gaslighting you? They're trying to convince you that your reality is not reality. I went home, I thought, gaslighting, ooh, better look that up. Very trendy word. My council, I was a Labour Party member. I spoke against LTNs at a ward meeting, and I had a councillor tell me, I love LTNs. There are a fewer cars when I walk my child to nursery. And I said, look, There's 350 children dancing with congestion on Dalston Lane, and you're telling me about your one child. Has the Labour Party moved so far from caring about people?
They don't care.
And as some people in Hackney know, we should publish my resignation letter. I wrote a resignation letter and told them exactly why I resigned. And I was asked by HHRC members to stand for the council. And I have been writing to the council, to the ward councillors, to everybody saying, we're dying. No traffic, no.
Thank you very much, my lovely.
Thank you, everybody. It's so lovely to be back in Islington. Again, really good to see you all again. I remember coming here last year in November at one of the first demonstrations you had against the low traffic neighbourhoods, which are not low traffic neighbourhoods, they're actually high traffic neighbourhoods, because they cause more traffic and they cause more congestion and they cause more pollution than when they were first started and put in. And I'm against the pop-up bicycle lanes and the planters and the curbside street space barriers that Sadiq Khan is putting in all over London on TfL roads. And I promise you as mayor, I will get rid of them all. But I'm not going to promise to do that on day one, because what the mayor is in charge of is the TfL roads. So what I can promise you is that anything that is on a TfL road that is a blockage, that is a road narrowing space, I will work to get rid of those blockages from day one. Woo! When it comes to the low traffic neighbourhoods that are being implemented by the boroughs, I want you to know that I'm totally against them, heart and soul, because they are stopping local people from being able to drive their cars around, and they have to go far, far longer, and the journey times are doubled and tripled, and they need to be got rid of as soon as we possibly can. But you've got all the different levels of government are working together to put them in. So the money and the drive to put them in is coming from Boris Johnson and Grant Shapps in Westminster. And they've allocated £250 million around the country to put in low traffic neighbourhoods and these kind of schemes, which narrow roads. And in London, £80 million has gone to the mayor out of the national budget to do this. And then the mayor gives the money to the local boroughs, whether they're Labour or Conservative, and then they implement them on the local level. What I can promise you is that as Mayor of London, I will not allocate any new money for any new LTN, so the situation won't get worse. But we have to get rid of them smartly, because what's happened, and I hate this, is that they've all been put in under emergency regulation due to the Coronavirus Act. And that is a device that the Johnson government, with the full support of Labour MPs, has put in and extended, and they're probably going to extend it again in September. And the emergency regulation has allowed councils to circumvent the normal democratic process. So what they can do is they can put in these schemes which the people don't want without having a proper consultation. And that is absolutely wrong, and it's undemocratic, and I totally stand against it, and I want no part of it. Woo! But the ones that have already put in, we need to get rid of. And in many, many cases, there hasn't been a proper equalities impact assessment. There haven't been proper assessments of how it's going to affect emergency vehicles, because that is a really, really dangerous result and side effect of these low traffic neighbourhoods, is that ambulances and fire engines and police vehicles can't get in to neighbourhoods to attend emergencies. So I think on that basis, I'll be able to get rid of an awful lot of these LTNs and these road blockages straight away by demanding that the councils make their roads and neighbourhoods safe for emergency vehicles, and that will get rid of the bulk of them. And that is stage one of my plan. And then we'll do the proper consultations, and when we can, and I will certainly give every help and support to local residents and groups who want to get rid of these LTNs wherever they are in London, including here in Islington. But we have local elections in the boroughs next year in May 2022. So I've started... Support there from the roads, fantastic. I've started the Heritage Party, and we are against the whole anti-car green agenda, which is pushing this rubbish. I am not against cars, I am not against vehicles. I'm not against electric cars.
Dave, we're going to start wrapping up a little bit.
Okay, if you want to buy an electric car, that's fantastic. You can do it on the free market. No problem at all. But I agree with everybody's right to have a car and to drive it wherever they used to drive it before. And I will support people's free choice in that, and being able to use the roads as they see fit. And we need to just get back to the situation we were in before we had all of these road blockages, and I will do everything in my power as mayor after next Thursday to make that happen.
Salvation. Sadiq Khan should be ashamed of himself, and if you vote me for mayor, I will get rid of every single one of them. Day one. It's horrendous. And it's so lovely to see people gathering together and protesting this illiberal, people choosing what is and isn't a necessary journey. That's not the country we live in. Thank you.
Right, Sean, you're here and you've got a Heritage Party badge on. First of all, tell us all about that.
Well, I'm Sean Finch. I'm running for the Heritage Party. It's a party created by David Curtin 6 months ago. He's running for Mayor of London, obviously. He asked me to be his campaign assistant, which I did agree to because I was free agent at the time. And now I'm number 2. I've joined the party because I agree with most of his manifesto, which he wrote. Excellent manifesto, the best one I've ever read. It's about simply heritage in its name, protecting the UK's heritage, like stopping Sadiq Khan's statue commission because he wants to tear down the statue. We want to preserve them, preserve the green belts, get rid of the LTNs because they're an absolute mess, and basically sort of help any sort of just do what made England and the UK great in the first place, like civil liberties and stuff like that. So I'm very much a civil liberty man of it, like, so I'm a libertarian in mind, but it's a socially conservative party and it's believing in traditional family values and Christianity.
How do you find the campaign's been going so far?
Excellent. I've never had such a positive response for David. We've gone to all of the market towns. We've been to Walthamstow, Barking, Croydon, Greenwich, loads of the market towns, and in Islington today, Camden, and it's just absolutely fantastic response. People know who David is, they're coming up to him, they're saying get rid of Khan please, we don't want to vote for Conservatives anymore, we don't want to vote for the Lib Dems, the Greens, we want to vote for someone different. So hoping that this is going to be a long-term thing. It isn't going to be like the other candidates that I think perhaps are going to be like a one-hit wonder sort of. They'll run for mayor, run for this sort of London Assembly. They won't get in, if they don't get in, and then you probably never see them in the Heritage Party is here to stay. It won't go away. It's going to be there at the next local election next year as well in May 2022.
Right, so you've espoused those values, and obviously it's very important for people that have been established in the UK for a long period of time. Presumably, if you were able to get into City Hall, you'd be able to make more of a, perhaps even an international image for it, so that people really understand what the United Kingdom stood for. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we're going to use. We're going to use it for a platform of that. We're going to also sort of show as well just how, in my opinion, inefficient the London Assembly is. I mean, personally, I'll just get rid of it all personally, and that's what I'll sort of campaign for and just show, like, just sort of similar to how other parties went into the European Union and then showed just how sort of a facade, what it was, a farce. Unfortunately, the London Assemblies don't really do much, and it's just simply try and tell the mayor what not to do or what to do. But at the end of the day, the mayor just decides anyway. So we're trying to like highlight that, and obviously highlight the party and highlight just how much we want to protect the UK's sort of culture and heritage.
Right, now here's a real bite-the-bit question for you. A lot of people are talking online, particularly in these opponent groups of the major parties, about who they should actually vote for. Obviously, the idea would be go out and have a look at one of these candidates performing in a crowd, see what they're espousing. So when people do suggest that on these forums that they should vote for Labour or they should vote for the Conservatives, what's your message for those people?
Do not vote for any of the mainstream parties anymore. At the end of the day, especially Labour and Conservative, but also Green and Lib Dem, they are part of the establishment parties. If you honestly are thinking of voting for the Conservative candidate in the mayor elections or the London Assembly, I'm sorry, you've been conned. Like, the reality is that both have been in lockstep together, working together to basically ruin the roads of London, ruin businesses. They've agreed with a national lockdown, which we don't agree with. We're pro-liberty, pro-freedom. We want to end the lockdown, and they have worked in unison. So if you honestly think that voting for the Conservative candidate, for example, is going to help you in any way, it is not. The governing party of this country has nationally forced a lockdown. They've made the lockdown, not the Coronavirus Act, not the coronavirus itself, but the actual legislation which is caused by government and Parliament, which all the parties are in, and they have closed down businesses. They've caused mass unemployment, they've caused unchecked cancer treatments and even suicides. So voting for the Conservative candidate or any other of the major parties are not going to help you. Compliance will not save you. That's why we're saying vote for something alternative and actually vote for the Heritage Party, in my opinion. Obviously, for the mayor candidate, you can vote for two candidates. Obviously, I would recommend David Curtin as number one, or at least make him at least one of your options anyway. There's four anti-lockdown candidates, Piers Corbyn, Brian Rose and Lawrence Fox. It's up to you who you want to vote for, but I would recommend David Curtin as number one, the Heritage Party on the London Assembly, and it's up to you then we're not running in the constituency one, so it's up to you on the constituency ones, but we're on the proportional representation one, and obviously the mayor.
Right, the United Kingdom, London itself, of course, being the head of it, is built upon capitalism, and we all know what that means, and it all runs around the money. What about businesses that have suffered so badly under the Coronavirus Act and the way in which it's been implemented? We've seen across countless boroughs in London these massive barricades stopping people parking, people can't pick up their goods, people can't go to their favourite services such as restaurants and the likes. These people are in dire straits, and we've spoken to many of them. Will the Heritage Party, and obviously supporting David Curtin as the mayor, will they be looking into what's happened to businesses? Will there be some kind of investigation, and will there be help for those businesses?
Absolutely. We're like I said, we're going to end this lockdown immediately if we were to get in nationally, but obviously David as also the Police and Crime Commissioner, but that's also what the mayor does, he would instruct the Met Police to not enforce the Coronavirus Act, so therefore businesses can reopen again, and it's up to the businesses. This is what I'm all about. Choice. If businesses want to continue social distancing measures, that's up to them, but the ones who don't want to do it and actually want to make money, then they can do that. So that's what we're going to support, and obviously that's how we will support them in that way, because unfortunately whether it's the London government, i.e. Labour's Khan, or whether it's the national government, the Conservatives, Boris, they have bankrupted the nation, and unfortunately, I'm going to be real with you, there's not really much money left. The kitty's dry, the purse is pretty much bare. So I would help them in that way by having as minimal regulations as possible, whether that be business rates, whether that be taxes, all of that, health and safety. Just try and make it as easy for businesses to maximise as much money as possible. Small independent ones, not the multi-international corporations. They've made a killing since this. They've made the most since this lockdown. So, but it's the local business that we need to help, the small independent ones.
Many people, not just if the business is being a problem, but many ordinary members of the public have lost their jobs, and they've got nothing much to look forward to for the future. What do you think the Heritage Party could do for them? And at the same time, if David is elected as Mayor of London, will he be looking at that, do you think? Will he be able to do something for those people who have suddenly found themselves faced without employment simply because the coronavirus was enacted upon their businesses?
I think, and I believe David does as well, we want to have a proper public inquiry into this sort of thing. Honestly, I think it has caused obviously mass unemployment, loads of jobs, businesses being closed. It's affected people mentally, in mental health as well. It's skyrocketed, suicides, all of this. There needs to be a proper public inquiry. I'm sorry that a lot of these politicians who have allowed this to occur, there needs to be some kind of retribution to it, because this is something now that is beyond redemption now, I think, because it's just gone too far, and the mainstream parties will not say, because they've all voted in lockstep against it, and we, the Heritage Party, will give as much support as possible. We're not going to make false promises we can't keep. We're going to try and help them as much as possible, so that's what I'm hoping that we will do.
Sean, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Joe Graber, okay, what actually made you run for the possibility of being a councillor?
It wasn't for a laugh, that's for sure. I think it all boils down to where we all started from a year ago, standing outside on these steps here, and how everyone sort of was basically disregarded by the council. And then thinking that I knew then, way back then, that it would have to be the ballot box that would make this change. The ballot box would make the change, and we now have a chance in St Peter's Ward and in Bunhill to elect some independent people into this town hall here, shake it up and give us a voice. Give us a voice, because people like us who have not had a voice listened to in the town hall have been disregarded. It's about time this turns around and stops.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you've been talking to people out on the streets because obviously you're campaigning, obviously, for that councillorship position, and I suppose you've been talking to businesses too. What's the feedback been so far?
Feedback being from residents, they believe that the Labour Council hates the working class, which it's not my words, it's their words, but I fundamentally probably agree with that as well.
Well, it's quite profound, but
yeah,
again, we've been filming over the last 18 months now, and it does appear that people are turning very much against the ruling class party.
They're going against the Labour Party, they're sort of disregarding them. From businesses, you're getting, when you're asking businesses, what can the council do to help local businesses after COVID? And they tell you about the rates, you know, and they're not, the council, would they take the rates down? No, they haven't. And then you get people against it saying, oh yeah, she's lying, the woman's lying. The woman's telling a fib. I'm like, no, she isn't. She runs the business. She told me she has problems with the business rates. And I think the council should drop it.
How do you think people feel who have had businesses that have actually gone out of business as a result of what's been happening?
I think they'd feel quite distraught, really. I mean, the people I've spoke to in businesses and I've asked them about what the council done, the sum effort of the council was to enforce COVID restrictions. Social distancing markers on the floor, signs in the window saying you've got to pay by card, and that's it. No other support, none whatsoever.
So support gone, so presumably...
Support gone, enforcement up.
Yeah. So obviously what's next on the agenda, it does look like it's all about the money, but Joe, that's down to you.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I just did this.
I think obviously people have got to get the message that clearly, one thing is noticeable, at the moment, and has been for a long time, there's a majority inside Islington Town Hall. How are you going to work that change? Because obviously it sounds like it's going to be the fox in the hen house here.
Yeah, the proverbial. I mean, hopefully we get some other people get elected across Islington, different, you know, might get Lib Dem, we might get a Tory in, there's already a Tory there, we might get 2 independents in. But it's about calling them out, calling them for what they are, not letting them have a rest, you know, actually bringing the meetings back off Zoom into the town hall. I want to get in that town hall, I don't want to be doing it on Zoom. Not doing it on Zoom, I want face to face, I want to see your face when you're making these decisions against the people of this borough. I want to see your face and I want to call your face out and I'm going to say to you, you are not getting away with it. We're not having the London Cycling campaign in that town hall, having meetings with councillors. Because if they are, I'll be in them. I'll be attending their meetings and I'll be calling them out. Chris Kenyon, is it in Labour? It will be called out.
So, in short, you're going to make a big change inside the town hall yourself, are you? Okay.
I hope so. I mean, you know, one voice is more than the voice we've got now.
Do you find also that in talking to people, particularly perhaps in businesses or independent individuals, do you think that you're actually making people consider very seriously the idea of standing as councillors?
I think if I'm successful, then I start the ball rolling, I think, and we'll have a wave of independent people standing for council.
Right, and with that in mind, the ball is obviously clearly in the court of Islington Town Council and the electorate.
And the electorate, and the good people of Bunhill, St Peter's Ward, Mildmay, Highbury West.
And many of us to come in 2022.
And all the rest of them in 2022.
Joe Graber, thanks very much. We wish you all success.
Cheers.
Gary, thanks for joining us today. Now, it's been quite a journey this to get to here today. Tell us a little bit about how it started and how we ended up here today.
Thank you very much, David. So basically, back in 2020, there was a big rush of these LTNs that we put in place from the council in my borough where I live. I felt concerned regarding the way they were being put in. There was no consultation whatsoever being put to the residents in my area where I live, and I was assuming it's the same for all areas in the borough. So I come together with members, which I've got Sean here with me, Sean Paul Day, and we spoke regarding how we could make an impact. See you later. See you later. How we can make an impact on trying to make the residents aware that we are trying to do something to make the council understand that we're not having this. We want to remove the LTNs. No consultation. And the first demo we had, which was just over there on the zebra crossing over there, and from there it's just really been history, really. And today was the first demo of the year for us, for the LRC. We had other parties come along, and it's been a great day. I mean, we had a good turnout and good speakers.
It's been good. I mean, I've been here in solidarity with Islington residents today. The fact is, LTNs create more problems than what they solve. They've used COVID as a Trojan horse to bypass the usual scrutinising processes. They've displaced traffic from side roads with high car ownership onto illegally polluted residential main roads, and that to me is a socially unjust abomination. And when you look at it, no matter how you look at it, the democratic process has been subverted, emergency legislation has been misled, the consultations and equality impact assessments have been overridden and denied, and any politician, be it the top down, it doesn't matter whether you're the Johnson government, it doesn't matter whether you're TfL, through to the local authorities, any politician that thinks it's okay to divide the community should not be in the position we're in today. And that is a stance we've had for over a year. It's been a year since we initially demonstrated here. The fact is, the council still isn't listening. Despite the evidence, they're still not listening. And this isn't going to go away. We have a chance on the 6th of May to replace the incumbents in the town hall. But if they don't make changes in the first instance, then we'll be back here again and again and again and again. They are a social abomination, and it needs to stop.
Part of the message that obviously has got through to a lot of people is it's invited people to take their own decisions, hasn't it? I mean, we've got independent candidates standing now. How do you feel about that since it all started? I mean, it's mustered up some amazing names.
Myself, I was a Islington Council resident worker, and I was going to stand for councillor position, but as I was working for the council at the time, I couldn't do that. Now it's a bit too far gone. I'm hoping to look to try and stand in 2022 in my borough in Mildmay, and which is Canterbury South, or Canterbury North, I think it is, one of those two, one of my one there. But anyway, that area there, because there's been no opposition in that area at all. So I'd like to stand in that position when it comes to 2022.
So you've put your money where your mouth is then, so... Right.
I've stuck by so far, David. I've stood my ground. I've been to every demo. I've showed my face.
It's quite amazing though, isn't it? Because you have actually encouraged other people to get up there and to do something, and some of them have been quite dynamic, shall we say, and they've obviously got out there and they're actually standing as candidates as well.
Okay, so basically we're the first borough to do demos regarding LTNs. We had a fear of the police coming down heavy on us at first, but we still took that stance. We still believed in what we believe in. We went for it, and we're still going to carry on and keep plucking away and try and encourage other people to come forward, independent councillors, to get inside these buildings. Because if we don't change the way this is at the moment, we're never going to get nothing done, and it's going to get worse and worse. We need to attack it from the core, and that is in there.
Well, that's right. I think the council is running roughshod over the democratic rights of people to have their say, and only by breaking up the monopolistic autocrats that sit in the town hall there behind us might we achieve something, because it's not going to happen as long as there isn't competition in the council, and that's what we need to break down, that's what we need to dismantle in order to get some kind of balance in this argument.
Sean, Gary, thanks for joining our friends today.
David, thank you for turning up.
And we'll be
Thank
watching
you.
this.